What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the FF Ballbusters podcast. My name is Will. Joining me is my co-host Eric, and today we're going to talk about our 2024 running back rankings, looking at some of our NCAA prospects coming into the next season. But before we get started about that, Eric, you got anything for the people?
Yeah, real quick before we get started, we've been rolling lately. We've been growing. We've been adding subscribers. We've been getting a lot of engagement, and we want to keep that momentum going. You guys have been great so far, but we want to reach our milestone of 500 subscribers within the near future. That would be a fantastic goal for us to achieve, and you guys can help us out. It's free and easy to do, and we put out great content every week. So if you could hit that sub button, it would mean a lot. Leave a like, hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all of our latest videos, and leave a comment below about this video, whether you agree, disagree, about prior videos, anything that you want to talk about, we will answer you.
Absolutely. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into our rankings. Eric, who do you have ranked as the number one running back in the 2024 draft class?
So real quickly, I just want to preface, because we did our quarterback rankings the last video. We did top 5. We're only doing top 5 technically, again, for the running backs, just because of how crazy the running back landscape in college has been as of late, and trying to rank 6 through 10 would have been incredibly difficult this early on in the season. I have a lot of honorable mentions to at least talk about and put on your radar, and I'm sure Will has some as well. And so we'll talk about more than just 5 names, but that's, what we're solidifying in right now is just the top 5. Just wanted to make sure we got that on the table.
Absolutely, because it gets scary out there quick. Need a little bit more data before we can get that top 10 and feel comfortable. But what you got for number 1, Eric?
So I flip-flopped on this one a couple times, but I ended up settling in with Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin. 6'2", 245 pounds, like Derrick Henry-sized human being. This guy's a beast. He's so strong. Rarely does the first man bring him down. He always falls forward. And he's also surprisingly elusive and bursty for his size. And similar kind of in that Derrick Henry vein as well. Like if you give him any sort of runway, he's liable to take it to the house. He does have home run speed in his bag. And so that's a really exciting tape to watch when you see him. He can be a bruiser. He can run in stacked boxes and find success, but then he can also open it up in the open field, make people miss, and take it to the end zone. I think the NFL is just going to love him. And also worth noting, even though it's not his strong suit, he does have 23 catches through 7 games this year, which is fairly impressive for a guy his size. So I think he's getting closer to complete back territory. I don't think, catching the ball is ever going to be his true strong suit, but he's adding it to his repertoire. And yeah, that's why I have him at number 1.
No, I absolutely do agree with that. I have him also at number 1. The 23 receptions on the year was something that was big for me, especially after only having 13 last season. The fact he has 23 already is pretty awesome. 4.9 yards after contact versus 2.92 yards after contact compared to last year. So he's getting better at staying up. And also his tackles avoided per attempt went up 20% this year as well. Went to 43% from 22%. So he has been stepping it up in that as well. So I do, like you said, he's reaching that range where he's becoming more complete. He's also, like you said, surprisingly quick for as big as he is too. So yeah, I love Braylon Allen at that spot. I think he's great in that number 1 spot so far on the season.
Dig it. Yeah, so I figured we'd agree. We did come to an agreement here. Curious to see who you have at number 2. I predicted prior to the video that we would agree on the first 2 and then things would get interesting. Let's see if I'm right. Who you have here?
Yeah, I may be breaking away on this number 2. Who knows? But so far, I went back and forth on this a lot. I've got Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, actually, here in his number 2 spot. I feel like he's been extremely impressive so far this season. He finally got the opportunity now that Bijan and Roshan are both out of there. And I feel like he's done everything he can with it, to be honest. He's averaging 6.4 yards per carry right now. He's had some great games against some big competition so far on the season. He's also got great size, 6 feet, 207 pounds. I just feel like he's a pretty good dual threat running back as well. 18 catches on the season for 172 yards and a touchdown. So far, I believe 870 yards rushing on the season. But I just feel like he's been pretty dynamic as a runner. I feel like this team has needed somebody to step up in that void, and he's done that incredibly well so far. And compared to the rest of the running backs in terms of production so far on the season, I feel like he's been up there with the best of them. So I like Jonathan Brooks so far, and I know it's a bit of a hot take probably, but I like him so far in this 2 spot.
I love that you brought him up. I was not who I was predicting you were going to have in your 2 spot, but I think he's been incredibly impressive so far this season. He doesn't have quite like the prototypical size. He's sitting at right around 6 foot, 200 pounds. But he showed workhorse ability in terms of the workload that he's handled so far. The past 4 weeks, I think he's averaging right around 20 carries a game. And he's been over 100 yards in each of those games. He had one versus Kansas where he went 21 for 218 on 10.4 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns. His production is incredible. He's very exciting to watch. I think maybe you're right in, kind of pushing some of these guys that had been near the top of the list down. I think I'm holding out hope maybe a little bit longer than I should, because I have Trayon Henderson still sitting here at the number 2 spot for me out of Ohio State. 5'10", 215. Looks really good out of the gate. He had 300 yards and 5 touchdowns on only 44 attempts to start the season, but he continues to deal with injuries. He's been out the last 3 games. I think he's expected to suit up this week. And let's hope that that's the case and that he can put this injury behind him, because he's missed 8 games the past 2 seasons, and we're only halfway through this one. I've also even heard rumblings that he might come back to OSU and not declare, just because of all the time that he's missed and stuff like that. So that would be unfortunate for sure. But in terms of his eval as a player, he's a really smooth runner with great vision and impressive lateral agility. He put up over 15 points per game and a PFF rushing grade of over 75 as an 18-year-old freshman at Ohio State. Other highly touted backs to do that in recent history, we're talking guys like Nick Chubb, Royce Freeman, J.K. Dobbins, Bijan Robinson, and Nick Singleton. So incredibly good company to be in outside of Royce Freeman. But he was really good in college too. So yeah, I do still have him at number 2. But obviously there's a ton of question marks there. So I understand why he's not there on your list.
I mean, absolutely. I have him right there at the 3 spot for me. Because like you said, I'm holding out hope because he was extremely good those first few games of the season before he did get injured. Injury is, I guess, kind of a concern, but not really. It's a violent game. He plays running back. They get hurt. It's just kind of what happens. But it's like you said, it's tough to knock him down too far, because if we had had this conversation last year, he'd have been number 1. He'd have been in conversations for like being a top 5 pick going into this season. So to drop him down completely and to just completely give up on him, I'm not ready to do that either. And, 6.7 yards per carry, nothing to shake a stick at all. So like you said, I'm hopeful that he comes back soon and has maybe a few marquee games going into the end of the season to really solidify and bump himself up. But as of right now, until I do see him do that, that's why he's here at this number 3 spot for me. But he could easily rise up this board. Easily.
Yeah. No, I can fully understand that. Okay, so he's your number 3.
Absolutely.
No, yeah, you're number 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll get into my number 3. Another guy that, again, maybe I'm holding out hope too much, but he was my RB1 prior to the season starting. This is Raheem Rocket Sanders out of Arkansas. Another giant bruiser, 6'2", 243. He looked outstanding last year, rushing for over 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, and at 6.5 yards a clip. And not only that, but he was dangerous as a receiver as well. 28 receptions for 271 yards and 2 touchdowns. It might be hard to believe considering he is nearly 250 pounds, but Sanders was originally recruited to Arkansas as a wide receiver. So he has natural hands and good route running ability to go along with home run speed and his bruising running style. Like I said, he was my RB1 in the class to start the year, but then he suffered a knee injury the first game of the season. He's only appeared in 3 games so far as he's tried to play through it. But in his attempts, he hasn't been anywhere close to himself, only running at 2.7 yards per carry. If he can get back healthy, though, he could obviously move back up this list, but we'll have to see. His stock is falling pretty quickly right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I will say, he's dealing with the knee injury, but he was still forcing the attempts that he had. He was still forcing a 31% tackles avoided per attempt. So to say there isn't, like he's still got the talent there is what I'm saying. He is just injured. So it's hopeful, like you said, if he comes back towards the end of this season, gets healthy, and plays more towards the end of the season, he could easily rise up these boards as well, especially at 6'2", 245. It's kind of hard to pass up on when you got a guy like that who's explosive as he is too, and like you said, as natural of a receiver. I had him right here in my number 4 spot. It's kind of funny because we keep,
Okay.
yeah, it's just because I pushed
Yeah.
everybody down one spot because of Jonathan Brooks. So it's crazy that it's shaking out like this. But I had him there. I do value the talent there. I feel like he's one of those guys, again, that could easily rise up these boards if he comes back healthy and just shows signs of he is the same player that we've seen in the past because he's been a baller for Arkansas. And hopefully, he just continues to do so when he comes back.
Yeah, he's also another guy. Again, this is all speculation, no concrete stuff, but he's another guy that I heard could potentially return to school. Arkansas in general has been a mess this year, and so he might want to run it back for his senior season. We'll see. Another kind of storyline to talk about is how the 2024 class went from the running back being the strength of the class to being probably the weak point of the class. The quarterbacks and the wide receivers now kind of holding up the group. But yeah, so you had him as number 4.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll go into my number 4 here, if that's all right.
Let's see if you ended up doing it again. Let's see.
We'll find out. I got Trey Benson.
Oh my
out of
goodness.
FSU.
Yep.
Did I do it?
Yep.
Let's go. Pretty much in agreement for the most part. Trey Benson, 6'1", 220, has the ideal NFL size, and I think is truly a complete back. I don't think he's necessarily the best in any single category when compared to the rest of this class, but he's solid, bordering on elite at basically everything. Really good vision, can run with power, but also with finesse. Pretty impressive start-stop ability for somebody his size. Soft hands in the receiving game as well. One thing that really stood out to me is his ability to manipulate defenders' leverage and to find space that doesn't seem like it should exist when going through the line of scrimmage or hitting the second level. So that's been really cool to watch on his tape. I think if Hendo or Rocket Sanders really start to slide due to their injuries, this is a guy that could absolutely slide up and be a first-round selection, whether it be in the NFL draft or in your Dynasty rookie drafts come draft season.
No, I absolutely agree, which is why I have him right here at this spot for me too, at least at my number 5 spot, so right underneath. But yeah, it's like you said, he struggled early on at Oregon, but since he transferred to Florida State, he's kind of been putting together for the last 2 years, this year especially. Like you said, he's got pretty good size, or great size even at 6'1", 223. He's been involved as a receiver. He's seen some struggles as of late. He struggled against Duke a little bit earlier, or Clemson a little bit earlier in the season, struggled against Duke last week. So he's not the perfect prospect, but again, it's kind of weird when we're talking about these running backs this year because when I got to Trey Benson, I was looking at him versus guys at the top of this list for us, like Braylon Allen or even Jonathan Brooks or Raheem Sanders. His profile doesn't match up quite with theirs, but at the same time, his level of production is still matching up because they've been using him well, and he's been handling the workloads they've been throwing at him pretty well. So I like him in this spot, and I feel like you said, if Raheem Sanders and guys like that continue to slide down, he can easily push himself up these draft boards. But the most interesting thing for me, Eric, that I feel like about this draft class, do you feel like any of these guys are going to hear their name called on day one?
No.
Yeah.
Braylon Allen has a chance.
He's got a shot, but it'd be late, I feel
the
like.
End.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you know my stance, probably both of our stance, that if we're an NFL team, we're not drafting a running back in the first round. It just doesn't, value-wise, it doesn't make sense. But NFL teams can be dumb. NFL teams can reach for guys that they really like or things that they need if they need a running back. I could see Braylon Allen potentially being that guy. But yeah, with the injuries to Henderson and Raheem Sanders, I think it's becoming increasingly unlikely.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I see a lot of day two guys, some day 3 guys even. This is a weird top 5 for his position group, honestly. Yeah. And I don't really know what to really make of it going into even our honorable mentions that we're going to get into soon. Where is this all going to shake out in terms of an actual mock draft? I don't know.
There's gonna be a lot to be learned as the season closes out here. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens. But let me talk about my last guy on the list here. My number 5, Devin Neal out of Kansas. 5'11", 210. Talk about explosive. This guy is a big play machine. He's already at 850 scrimmage yards on the season, ripping off 8 yards per touch and 7 touchdowns. He's showed off really good patience and vision to kind of navigate the line of scrimmage. But once he hits the open field, good luck trying to bring this guy down. He has some nasty highlight reel jukes all over his tape and some unreal burst as well. Honestly, like Neal is a guy that I didn't have on my radar to start the season, but he should be on everybody's radar now, in my opinion. I fully expect him to get a ton of buzz from the Dynasty community this offseason and really rise up people's boards come draft time.
Nah, I love that. He's a name that I haven't heard a ton, but looking at the profile, like I'm just taking a look even now. Yeah, I can see 100% where the hype is there. I like that pick. I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Big game
Dive
against
in a little
UCF.
bit.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna have to take a look. Definitely take a look into this guy.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy that was under the radar, hasn't been getting a lot of buzz, but I think he deserves it, like I said. So yeah, if you haven't seen him, if you haven't looked at his tape, go ahead and take a look. He's definitely worth it. But that rounds out both of our top fives. Let's talk about some honorable mentions, some guys that just missed the list that if we had tried to rank them, it would have been so hectic. But just names to put on people's radars before we get out of here. Who you got?
Obviously, we got Blake Corum out of Michigan, somebody who's been producing this year, been producing more than Donovan Edwards, who hasn't been, I guess, getting the opportunity he feels like he should because he entered the transfer portal. So I guess Donovan Edwards, by proxy, is someone we take off of our boards for this year. I don't know.
Yeah,
you got like
for this year, true.
Yeah, you got Will Shipley out of Clemson still out there, still doing his thing. Not quite at the level he used to be, but still out there performing at least. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of more. But who do you have for yours written down as well?
So, because you had him at 2, I want to make sure that I mention I did have Jonathan Brooks right there at the edge of this top 5. He was near the top of my honorable mention list. He probably deserves to climb up my rankings as well. I had Bucky Irving, a little bit of an undersized guy out of Oregon, but incredibly explosive, just like a firecracker out of the backfield. It reminds me a lot of like a Darren Sproles, super shifty. He's got the speed, and he's handled a surprisingly big workload for Oregon the past couple of weeks. So I think he's somebody that's worth mentioning. You talked about Will Shipley and Blake Corum. I think Audric Estime out of Notre Dame is kind of that classic big bruising back. Not, the most athletic. He's not going to beat guys in a phone booth or anything like that, but he'll run you over. And I think he could be kind of that classic 2-down pounder in the NFL. Marshawn Lloyd is a guy that I really like as an under the radar pick from USC. He's a guy that I liked all the way back in South Carolina too. He's just dealt with injuries for a lot of his career, but I think he could be a late riser in the draft process. And lastly, Jace McClellan out of Alabama. Honestly, I haven't watched a ton of him this year. He's been a guy that's been on my radar for the past couple years as a name that I expected to rise closer to the top sooner. He hasn't really differentiated himself in that Bama backfield, but I think he does have the talent and pedigree to potentially get there if given the opportunity.
Yeah, I love a lot of those names. Some of them I got to take a little bit of a look into myself, and hopefully you guys do as well, because I'm hoping you guys got a lot of value out of this video, honestly. Hopefully we're able to throw some new names at you that you hadn't heard yet, some people to take a look into, some people to add to your boards, or some people to take off of your boards according to what we said. So hopefully you guys are able to find some value into this one. But yeah, I think that's going to round out everything for us, right?
I think we're good, yeah.
Cool. So that's going to round us off, guys. Make sure you do all that great YouTube stuff. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. That way you know when we drop all of our latest videos. Hit that like button. It's absolutely free, and it's the best way to get our stuff out there into the YouTube algorithm. And most importantly, hit up the comment section. Let us know if there's anybody we're missing out on. Did we let you guys know about a diamond in the rough that you maybe didn't know about? Or, maybe our context on a player might be off. Let us know down below. We're down to have a discussion. But Eric, do you have anything else for the people before we get out of here?
Specifically about those comments, I know there's some homers out there, some fans of these teams that have more information. I know specifically in our Discord, we got Max, who's a diehard OSU fan. Tell us about Trayon Henderson, what's going on with him. Tell us about Rocket Sanders, all that stuff. So if you're a fan of these teams, let us know. And also, I mentioned the Discord. Check the link in our description to join our Discord, become part of the community. We got a great group of people over there right now that interact with us every single day. So yeah, we'd love to add to it. And lastly, if you want to check some of the sponsors down there, we have Dynasty Owner, if you're interested in a cool Dynasty experience, and also Do Numbers. We're both wearing some hoodies right now. If you're interested in that, you can get 15% off of all sorts of merch, apparel, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, all that good stuff using our promo code DoNumbers15. So support us, support our sponsors. But yeah, I think that'll do it for us. If you stuck with us all the way till the end, as always, we love you. And we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.